one of the first people I thought would be great to hear from is Joanne Seeger. Joanne's been active in this congregation for decades and has some particular energy and experience around youth, including, I think, you basically put a pool in your own house as much for having the kids around as for your own self.
I think that's a nice thought. Yeah, I mean that's primarily what we use it for now, and primarily the church children and the berry pickers. We live on a berry farm, and so our berry pickers pick, and their families come and swim. But it's the children that make the pool so much fun as we're older.
So I have, between me and my wife, we have 8 kids, 6 of whom you know very well because they all grew up here. And when they think about this church, one of the, if not the first thing they're talking about is you.
Well, that's, they're a big part of my life. They have been. And they're very special to me too, as are the children that grow up here and now come occasionally with their children.
Yeah.
I get to get glimpses of children that grew up in this church and participated in the camps that we sent them to, and primarily the summer programs. Those are the things that really draw us together.
So tell us a little bit about what you do in the summers with kids.
Well, we started out back years ago when Rebecca Hazen was here, and I think she's the one that really instituted the program. We had a lot of children who didn't get into the city very much and didn't have an opportunity to do the camping and the campgrounds and the hikes and trails around the area. So she decided to set up a program weekly in the summer where we would take kids on excursions. And that started, back in the late 80s, I believe. And we did it with Springwater Presbyterian Church. We did it in combination with that church. We've had these favorite things that we've always done. One is the Portland City Walk, and the other are the Gorge Hikes. And those have stayed with the group. And even now, some of the kids that are now like 30 come just for those, and they bring their children and join us for the Portland City Walk and the Gorge Hikes. We usually do 4 fountains and spend hours there. We leave at 9 and 10 in the morning, and we don't get home till 8 at night. It's a long, fun day for the children. The kids, we try to talk some about the city and teach them some about how the plants grow. They look like they're coming up out of the sidewalk, and we talk about the river, and they often get acquainted with people on the Max. Just last year, a man explained to them things that they were seeing on the river, just a stranger on the Max. It was just dear with the children. And then with the street people, we talk about the street people with them, and we give them all a quarter to, if they see somebody that they want to help, or if they see a person that is playing an instrument, and they have that to contribute to, and we talk about looking at them and greeting them and that sort of thing. So it's a great activity. And the same with the Gorge Hikes. We do Waclella Falls and the fish hatchery, and then end up at Horsetail Falls with a picnic, and it's always a great time.
So this being a congregation of kind of 2 kinds of folks who are retired and folks who are still retired.
Yeah.
The kids we normally see are grandkids or great-grandkids, or now some even great-great-grandkids.
That's right.
And yet, when you do the Fountain Walk or the Gorge Walk, we've got 30 kids. And they're not necessarily connected to this congregation in any other way except that way.
That's right.
In other words, through you.
Through the activity that they like to do. Yeah.
So it becomes a community activity for kids.
It really does. And we even put it in the paper for a few years, but we really didn't get anybody from the newspaper, but we do tell the kids to bring friends if they'd like, that this is an opportunity for them to bring children that can, have this experience.
So this is one of the kind of almost odd pairings. Normally in my mind, I don't associate those kind of folks who are really focused on kids as being the kind of folks who are also very focused on international politics. Mm-hmm. And you lead us in both. And I think that's just part of I guess you embody a kind of diversity that we also see in other ways in our congregation. And we were talking about that a minute ago. Do you want to, over the years, how has this congregation kind of held on to so many different kind of beliefs and political commitments, despite what might divide other congregations?
That's a real mystery to me, but it has always been here. When we started coming in the 70s, it was a very diverse congregation then, both politically and theologically. Yeah. But there's just this sense of community that people have, and they support one another through all kinds of situations, and are just very accepting. And I don't know, I think part of it's the leadership. We've always had very, I don't want to say tolerant, but ministers that are very accepting. I mean, the three main ones that have been here since I've gone to this church, all of you have encouraged that, and I think just expected it of us. I don't know, but it's there, and it's just always been there, and the diversity has always been there. So I'm very curious, because we came from a church that was divided because of their diversity, and we left that church for that reason, and here we find this wonderful sense of community
in this little country church.
Right. Yeah.
But I think part of what I get real excited about here is that we get to model for our community what my grandmother always talked about: disagree agreeably. Uh-huh. It's okay not to think alike, not to believe alike, not to act alike. Treat one another with respect and consideration, and lo and behold, you're going to like one another.
And I think that we don't just model that for the community, but for ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how that continues to grow in this church, I think.
I wanted to hear from one of our friends and neighbors, Lynn Cameraman, because she and her kids have been a big part of this community for a long time. But like I was saying with Joanne, this community has concentric circles, and so the membership is kind of the defined circle. And Lynn hasn't been a member for good reason, because Lynn has her own faith, and her family has been raised Jewish, but that hasn't been a reason to exclude you or anybody. And so one of the things I'd like to hear about is, how come you hang out with Christians, and especially I didn't ask you to come down. You walked through the door today. What's going on? And
today is my weekly knitting group. I come on Tuesday afternoons to knit with the ladies here. And I think that, what was your question? Why do I hang out with Christians? Okay.
The specific group.
Yeah. Other than there's a lot of Christians in the world. This specific group is very unique in my mind, because they're accepting of me. They're not trying to have me be anything other than what I am, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And it allows me also to not require that they be anything other than who they are. So I think that's something that in this in our culture I really cherish.
Yeah. Yeah, we could use more of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, I want you to know that, and you said it, but it's not just like, I don't need to change you, or I don't need you to change. I wouldn't want to. You're God's gift to us the way you are.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully we can return the favor.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing, I don't think there's anything lacking or missing, or we've got right and you've got wrong. I just don't experience people that way, and I don't experience God being that way either.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I think that I feel that there's tremendous sharing that goes on between the people in this community.
Yeah.
If I have a question about something, or they have a question about something, you know, I feel very confident that I could ask it,
Yeah.
get information, they could ask me and get my information,
Yeah.
which, along with being accepting, or kind of goes along with being accepting,
Yeah.
I think is very hard to find. And that's what keeps me happy with the people in this community and helps me keep coming back.
Yeah. I'm glad you do.
Thank you. I'm glad you're here.
So I also wanted to hear from Paula Cooper, who's one of our members who's really spearheaded a great program that's provided a service to some of the neediest folks in our community. And I wondered if you'd kind of describe that for us.
The program that we started about 5 years ago, we call it Backpack Buddies. And we had an opportunity in our church where a young woman that was a granddaughter of the pianist
Yeah.
came one day, and she needed to do a community service project for her college.
Right.
And so she spoke in front of the congregation, and she mentioned the term Backpack Buddies, which I was very familiar with, because it's really a national program. It's sort of grassroots that provides food for the weekend for kids, needy kids, defined basically as kids that are on free and reduced lunch.
Yeah.
And so afterwards, I believe it was you, Craig, that she had said something to you, and you put a bug in my ear, and I talked with her. And even though she was going to school, she really couldn't participate.
Yeah.
I knew that the congregation had such a soft spot for this child. So I thought, oh, I would love to do that. And this is an opportunity for me, because I was fairly new to the congregation and did not have the trust at that point, or I felt I didn't,
Yeah.
that this young lady did. So we began it, and we began with 6 kids. And at the time we began, the school, the local school, the community school, had about 65% of the kids on free and reduced lunch. And this is an area where there's a lot of single families, a lot of immigrant families, and a lot of no jobs opportunities.
Yeah.
And so we began with 6 kids. And we progressed to this year, we're doing 14. And this is our 5th year. Our congregation has been so generous.
Yeah.
We have never had to worry about the money for it. And our costs have been pretty minimal. I mean, it's a big outlay when you're doing 14 kids.
Yeah.
But I have averaged about $5 a kid per week. And the members of the congregation have been involved in bringing the backpack material to the school each week. But I think that the most important thing
Yeah.
to me personally and to the congregation is that we feel that we are bringing our children in, and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren into this project and giving them the heart of a servant, because after Sunday school, or during Sunday school,
Right, yeah.
is when they put the backpack materials together for the kids. So they're really involved.
So you've got our kids in this congregation filling up the sacks that are going to provide the meals for the weekend for these other kids in the community.
Yeah, yes, and I really feel that without that piece, it wouldn't feel, I wouldn't have been quite so involved, or passionately involved. And I feel like the church community wouldn't have either, because even though they would want to do this, to have that connection that we're teaching our kids, meant a lot to our congregation, which is predominantly grandparents.
Right, right.
So, and it gave me a feeling that I was doing something for kids.
Yeah,
So,
both inside the congregation and in the community.
right.
And you've got kids helping kids, which is just beautiful. And like you said, growing up with a heart of a servant, it's just, for them, it's just what we do. It would be strange not to be filling sacks after Sunday school.
It would be, it would
Yeah,
be.
they're so
And
used to it.
the Sunday school teachers have really been good and generous with their time and having the kids do that, because they recognize the importance of that. So I really appreciate this congregation, and you particularly, in letting me be that involved with this for that long, and gave my life a little extra meaning.
Well, and it works the other way around. You're the spark plug for this program that brings a new dimension of really concrete compassion to this congregation's relationship to the community, as well as just, there are a lot of folks who haven't gone hungry on weekends now for 5 years because of your energy and initiative. Thank you, Paul.